When's the last time you saw each other?
It's got to be at least 15 years, eh, Jesse?
I would say so, yes. I
Wow.
think you're absolutely right.
But the time as we get older, Jesse, time goes by much faster. So it just seems like a snap away. Like it doesn't seem that long ago, really. Because I can remember you in the gyms, the top ranked gym in Vegas and stuff. And
Oh, those are exciting times. That actually, working with Roger was a real challenge because he was a very strong-minded person. He didn't have a lot of respect for anybody, but I saw on 24/7, it said the only white man I respect is Jesse Reid. That made my heart feel pretty good because he drove me nuts.
yeah, and
Wow.
that's Roger Mayweather, Floyd's uncle, right?
Yeah.
Yes, his uncle. Roger was a hell of a fighter. He just didn't have the discipline that Floyd Jr. developed, and that was really good.
You know what's crazy about that family? I always find it like the three guys that fought. Like there was Floyd Senior, Floyd's dad. There was Jazzy Jeff Mayweather, and then there was Roger. And Roger was one that had the huge punch. Jazzy Jeff could move pretty good, and Floyd could do everything as well, but he couldn't punch quite as well as Roger. So I think Floyd Jr. got a little bit of everyone.
I really do, but I really think when his dad was in trouble with the law, I guess he was in jail for a while. Roger was really the trainer. I mean,
Yeah.
until Roger started having dementia and getting a little older, he rehired his dad back with him. But Roger did most of the training of Floyd Jr., even when he was real young.
So really, in the '80s and '90s, it was Roger Mayweather that developed Floyd Jr. Right?
Exactly. He really saw his talent and really worked hard with him. And I got to give him a lot of credit. He did a lot of things that were special for that young man. And I think I taught Floyd Jr. a little something when I had Paul Spadafora spank his butt in the gym.
Oh.
Tell us about that moment.
Well, it was really an interesting time. We were getting ready to fight Cardona for the world title. We had been in Vegas for about 2 months, and he was in top condition, working with Stevie Forbes and a lot of the good fighters in Vegas, and he was really on top of his game. And then the father was getting a little jealous because we were getting a lot of publicity, and he come over to me one day and said, "Why don't you let that paisano box with a real fighter?" And I said, "Who's that?" He said, "My son." I said, "Well, I'd love to do that, but in 2 weeks we're gonna fight for the world title. I'd be insane to put two world champions. They both were lightweight champions at that time together because he might get a cut or something else." And they started calling us a bunch of names and making a lot of gestures, And Paul came to me and he said, "What do you think, Jess?" I said, "Well, Paul, your managers, and your promoter would want to kill me if I put you in there with them. But I'll tell you something. I haven't seen him in the gym, and I don't think he's been training that much. And I definitely think if he went 6 rounds with you, you'd spank his ass." He said, "Tell him we want to do it." So I told him, and I told the father, I said, "All your bragging and everything," I said, "you're going to eat it." I said, "I'm going to tape this, and I'll have the tape." And I did, and I put it on YouTube. And I guess that Floyd's not dumb. He learned a lesson from that. He never was out of shape again after that. He knew that, Paul's just spanked his tail end from one end and the other.
That's a crazy story.
What a story. They never fought each other professionally, though, correct?
That fight would have drew tremendous amount of, the Italian boy that beat him in the gym. It would have been millions of dollars. But Paul, I had him for like all the way up until he was 45-0. But he had a little bit of tappy in him, and he started drinking a lot and using drugs. And as much as I loved him and everything, I told him, "Paul, I can't handle you with this type of a thing you're doing." So I told him, you should quit boxing because you're going to get hurt. You're undefeated, and you should not fight anymore. And he went on and continued his career. And then, Paul went through a lot of trauma and bad things that happened to him. And he still calls me, and we still talk and everything. He just has that bad habit of just drinking too much and too much fooling around with drugs.
That's what I find about Floyd Mayweather. As the fight progresses, he gets the distance on guys and he just knows how to read them before they even know what they're going to do. Floyd already knows what they're going to do because he reads them so well, I find. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, he's got that great timing device in his body and mind. He grew up around his dad was a fighter. Roger was a great fighter. He's been around nothing but boxing, but he's smarter than people give him credit for. Even though he can be cocky and you get a little angry with him, the young man is a smart man. When I whipped him with Paul, he right away realized, man, I'll never go into the ring. He came to me in the 4th round and he said, Jesse, I'm tired. This is good. You're going 2 more rounds, or I'm going to tell everybody what a coward you are. And that showed me that he had balls, because he went the 2 rounds when he was exhausted. And when after the tape, if you look at it, he's laying on the ground with his arms spread out like he's on the cross, and he was completely exhausted. And I think he said to himself, I'll never, ever put myself in that kind of position again. And that shows his intelligence. You know, boxing is discipline, man. Being strong-minded and just know what that you have to be. When you run out of gas in a fight, there's no more horrible feeling in your life. Believe me. And that's what happened to Mayweather with Paul Spadafora. When that throat is going, you can't even breathe, and somebody's beating your body in, you know. And yet he told me, no, I'll never be in that position again. And he never was. So that's how smart he is. When you have trained a fighter, no matter if it's been good relationship or bad relationship, and yet that fighter still respects you and talks about, like I told you, I didn't get along with Roger Mayweather. I wanted to kill him half the time. But I had a job to do with him, working for Billy Baxter, and I did my job. And Roger, I think, respected that. He knew that. And he begged me. I quit him one time. He told me, you'll never make any money off me again because I'm tired of your criticism and this and that. And he quit working with me. And I told him, Roger, I says, not a problem. He says, yeah, you'll never get another hamburger out of me. That's what he said, you know. And so I was I used to go to the fights at Caesar's Palace, and Roger saw me there, and he come running over. Jesse, could you give me another chance? He had won the lightweight title with me, and then I quit him in the middle of that. And he begged me to come back. And I told him, the only way I come back is if you do what I tell you to do. Otherwise, I'm not going to train you anymore. I don't want any more of your disrespect. He did everything I told him to do, you know, and he ended up winning the 140-pound world title. But Roger had some real crazy things going on at the same time. And I don't want to say too much about bad things, but he went through some bad times. And it showed in his life. I mean, look at him. The poor guy would have blackouts and couldn't even know where he was at, and just got to be a sad situation. But I'll always remember that in 24/7, the only white man I respect is Jesse Reid. And that made me know that I did some good things with him, and I taught him the right things. I think, you know, Manny's that way. He's part of boxing. He wants to do the right things.